Every evening, just before sunset, Daniel noticed the same sight, two little twin girls standing quietly near the bakery on the corner. They couldn't have been more than 7 years old, with messy ponytails, worn-out dresses, and eyes far too tired for their age. They never begged outright, never shouted or pulled at strangers' sleeves. They just stood there, their gaze fixed on the shelves of bread and pastries inside, as if memorizing every detail. When someone offered them food, they accepted with a shy smile and whispered, "Thank you." Then they disappeared down the narrow alley before anyone could ask questions. Daniel, a single father himself, felt something tug at his heart each time he passed by. His daughter, Emily, was the same age, safe at home, warm, and cared for. He couldn't stop wondering, where did these girls come from? Where were their parents? One evening, when the twins appeared again, Daniel decided to follow them. He kept a careful distance, his heart pounding. The girls clutched the small bread rolls they'd been given that day and hurried down the alley, turning corners with a strange sense of purpose. Finally, they stopped at the back of an abandoned building. Through a broken window, Daniel peered inside. What he saw froze him in place. The twins weren't eating the bread. Instead, they were breaking it into smaller pieces, gently feeding a baby boy wrapped in a thin blanket. Daniel's breath caught. They weren't just hungry children, they were caretakers. Daniel's chest tightened as he watched the scene unfold. The two little girls carefully tore their bread into tiny pieces, making sure the baby got the first bite. Only after he'd eaten did they nibble on what was left. Their hands were trembling from hunger, but they never once complained. Daniel stepped back, his mind racing. Where are their parents? Why are these children alone in such a place? That night, he couldn't sleep. Emily stirred in her bed, and Daniel tucked her blanket tighter, realizing the stark contrast. His daughter had everything, safety, love, food, while those twins had nothing but each other and a baby to protect. The next evening, Daniel prepared a small bag of food before leaving work, sandwiches, apples, and a thermos of warm soup. He waited near the bakery until the twins appeared, then followed them again. This time, instead of hiding, he stepped forward. The girls froze, fear flashing in their wide eyes. They clutched the baby tighter. "It's okay," Daniel said softly, crouching to their level. "I'm not here to hurt you." One twin shook her head. "We can't take too much. People get angry." Daniel's heart ached. He carefully placed the bag in front of them. "This is for all of you. No one's going to be angry." The older twin's lips trembled as she whispered, "Thank you, sir." Daniel watched as they huddled together, eating slowly, feeding the baby first once again. It was in that moment he realized, these weren't just hungry children. They were survivors. And he couldn't just walk away. The following day, Daniel couldn't shake the image of the twins. He returned with more food, but this time, he asked gently, "Where are your parents?" The girls exchanged a look. The older one finally whispered, "They're gone. Mama got sick. Papa left before that." Daniel felt his throat tighten. He glanced at the baby, who looked no older than 2. "And you've been taking care of him all by yourselves?" They nodded. Daniel was stunned. 7-year-old children, carrying the weight of survival on their fragile shoulders, protecting their baby brother in an abandoned building. He thought about Emily, how she cried if he was late picking her up from school, how she needed him for everything. And here were these little girls, living like adults in a world that had been cruel to them. "Why didn't you ask for help?" Daniel pressed. The younger twin lowered her eyes. "We did, but people said we were lying. Some got mad. Some told us to go away." Daniel clenched his fists. He understood their mistrust now. The world had failed them. "I believe you," he said firmly. "You're not alone anymore." The girls looked at him with disbelief. No one had ever spoken those words to them before. That night, Daniel carried the weight of their secret home with him. He stared at his daughter, peacefully asleep, and realized he faced a choice, to be just another passerby in their lives, or to step in and change everything. His heart already knew the answer. The next day, Daniel returned with Emily. She carried a stuffed rabbit in her arms, curious about where her dad was taking her. When they arrived at the abandoned building, the twins shrank back, clutching the baby. But Daniel crouched down. "It's okay. This is my daughter, Emily. She wanted to meet you." Emily smiled shyly and held out the stuffed rabbit. "You can have it. My dad says everyone deserves a friend." The twins blinked, stunned. Slowly, the younger one accepted the toy, hugging it to her chest like it was the first gift she'd ever received. Daniel brought food, blankets, and warm clothes. Each visit, the children trusted him more. He listened to their stories, laughed at their little jokes, and treated them the way no one else had, with dignity. But it wasn't enough. He couldn't just drop off supplies and leave them in a crumbling building. "They need a home," he whispered one night, staring at the ceiling after tucking Emily into bed. "They need us." The thought scared him. He was already juggling single fatherhood, work, and life's endless responsibilities. Could he really take in 3 more children? But when he remembered the sight of those girls tearing bread into crumbs for their baby brother, his doubt melted. The very next morning, Daniel made the hardest call of his life, to child services. He promised he'd do whatever it took to give them a safe place. He didn't know if they'd let him. But he knew one thing for certain: he couldn't walk away. Weeks passed in a blur of meetings, background checks, and paperwork. Daniel showed up for every interview, answered every question, and never once backed down. The twins clung to him during visits, terrified they'd be separated. Finally, one chilly afternoon, the call came. "Mr. Hayes," the social worker said, "the twins and their baby brother, they're officially being placed in your care." Daniel sat in stunned silence, then felt tears prick his eyes. He hung up and rushed to the children, kneeling before them. "You're coming home. With us. For good." The girls stared, mouths open, until one whispered, "Really? You mean, we're not going to be left alone again?" "Never," Daniel promised, his voice breaking. "You're safe now." Emily squealed with joy, grabbing the baby's tiny hand. "I always wanted a brother," she shouted, making the twins laugh for the first time. That evening, the small house was alive with noise, laughter, footsteps, the clatter of dishes. For the first time in a long time, the twins didn't worry about their next meal. The baby slept soundly in a warm crib. And Daniel sat in the middle of it all, overwhelmed but grateful. He realized kindness had started with a loaf of bread. But it had grown into something much greater, a family reborn. The world had tried to break those children, but love had the final word. And in that moment, Daniel knew, sometimes, the most unexpected detours in life lead us exactly where we're meant to be.